Hello everybody, and thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Let's Be Honest, the hospitality podcast that's not massively about hospitality, in that it's more about life lessons, doing the right thing, stopping doing the wrong thing, preparing, reflecting, being a better person, and dealing with all the things that go on around us every single day. Maybe it is about hospitality. Saying all of that, today is not so much about people, but names. Yes, I'm going to be doing lots and lots of name calling. You could also be forgiven for thinking that this episode is going to revolve around me just slagging people off. I mean, there may be a bit of that. However, I will try and play by my own rules and play nice-ish. So what's in a name? Well, everything. Much, much more than you may have ever considered. So, like a shit Sherlock Holmes with Tourette's, let's fucking investigate, shall we? Welcome to Let's Be Honest. Are you a name caller? Good, so am I. I love it. I love name calling and everything about it. It's one of the best parts of my day. A business, a cocktail, a band, a book, it's everywhere. We are all influenced and we all have an opinion. God, do we have an opinion. Sorry, did you think I meant I was going to be a bit of a dick and calling people names? Well, I'm shocked and quite frankly, a little hurt. I'm not going to lie. Putting aside my disappointment at you assassinating my good character, are you going to tell me that you have never bought a cocktail or visited a venue on the strength of its name? Do you ever pick a movie or a TV on Netflix because the name just jumped out at you, or for that matter avoided one because the title did nothing for you? At this point you may be thinking, Wise, why are you talking about movies and TV again? Well, I'll tell you. I like to make the whole process of getting my point over as relatable as I possibly can, and I like using things like sports, movies and TV as I think most of us can relate to that. If I just talked about bars, venues and business, that could come across a little dull at times. I think so anyway. You know what? If someone had taught me maths in school using football and TV to solve mathematical problems, I would have won the Nobel Prize for awesomeness by now. Plus, you know me by now, there's always a point. There will always be a message. I just often take the fun scenic route to get there. What I'm trying to get at here is that a name can make or break a situation. Naming a business, creating a cocktail, even naming your new dog, it's all the same. For instance, sometimes simply naming your dog, I don't know, let's call him Dick. Seems that it could be mildly inappropriate. That could go horribly wrong. Do you really want to walk around the park at night shouting, "Has anybody seen my dick?" No, you don't. Or on a Saturday morning, turning to your wife and stating that you are just taking your dick out for a bit of fresh air. And if I'm lucky, there will always be some kids who want to play with him. So names are clearly important. Sorry, how indulgent is that? I just made myself laugh. Anyway, hashtag name calling matters. Hashtag keep your dick on a lead. Wow, this episode has really gone downhill rather quickly, hasn't it? Another simple example, I think I should move on from that one quickly, don't you? You are on your favourite streaming service. No, not the one you pay for with the back card. And these 3 movies pop up. Which one of these movies are you more intrigued by? And they're all real movies, by the way. It's also irrelevant at this point whether the movie is good or not. I will also try not to influence your decision in any way. I promise. Okay then, Ewan McGregor in Fishing in the Yemen. Yawn. Sorry, Ewan. Nearly fell asleep with that one. Ralph Fiennes in The Dig. Yeah, whatever, Ralph. Do one, mate. How about Andy McDowell in Riding the Bus with My Sister? Wow. I would rather eat my own shit while watching an episode of The View with Jada Pinkett Smith, Mariah Carey, Amy Schumer and hosted by Meghan Markle. So that's a no then, Wise. Fucking right, it's a no. Or how about the Clooney in Return of the Killer Tomatoes.
Fuck yes.
That's where we're going. No influencing going on there, I think you'll all agree. Look, you know, and so do I, even if you didn't see who's starring in the movie, just like the cocktail on the list, that's content you haven't noticed yet. It's the name that often grabs you. You may not even end up watching Return of the Killer Tomatoes or ordering that drink, but the name grabbed your attention, didn't it? It's also worth noting that there are great movies, just like great venues out there, that you may just never get to sample because of the name. I don't know, if I was going to pluck a movie out of my arse as an example, possibly just because I watched it the other night, I would say Glengarry Glen Ross. Sounds a bit like a film about Scottish things that you already know you don't care about. Who is watching that shit? You aren't even going to look at the cast or the contents, if you know what I mean. But if you did, you would see 7 of the greatest actors of our time, including Mr. Pacino. Point being, the name put you right off, didn't it? Shawshank Redemption, voted one of the greatest movies of the 90s, died on its arse at the box office. Made no money. Could it have something to do with the name? It's possible, don't you think? We all notice, sample, or buy based on something, and one of those somethings that should never be underestimated is the name. So that's what we're talking about today, and that's why I've called this episode Name Calling. Let's start with a question to you. Who among you either has their own business or aspires to own their own business one day? Any type of business, doesn't really matter what it is.
Say I.
No, please don't do that. That was all very life coaching seminar again, wasn't it? And you know how much I love that stuff. Let's never do that shit again. The next thing you know, you will all be jumping up and down and punching the air.
Oh my God, there's so much energy in the room. Give yourself a huge round of applause. You people are the future, you wonderful creatures.
No, you are puppets. You just can't see the strings. If you are ever in a group and the host, whoever the hell it may be, says, give yourself a round of applause, take your shoe off and throw it right at their fucking head. What are you, a performing seal? If I clap, you'll give me a treat? Jesus, this could be a long one. No, there isn't a joke there. Oh yeah, I was asking who owns a business or wants to. Most of us is the likely answer. We all own or would like to own. Owners and dreamers alike. In the future, we will touch on the why, as in why you want to own a business. Because there has to be a why for everything we do. There should be anyway. There also has to be a reason why you called your business the name you did. Again, there should be. We will get into the nitty-gritty of all that in a minute. But first, and to prolong this episode even further, I would like to share my university degree qualifications and extensive marketing training that makes me qualified to talk about such a matter. Oh, hang on, bollocks, I just realised something. I don't have any formal qualifications. Bugger tits. What am I to do? I tell you what, if it makes you feel better, I could do what a lot of bullshit gurus do, before they take your money, of course, and I could embellish on my achievements, telling you just how great it is to be me with my Ted Baker teeth and helicopter blue sky thinking. I could sit around a table with you in a white, minimalist open plan office. There is, of course, no clutter in this space, which is how I like to live my life. I also have many long-sleeve, snug-fitting jumpers in my wardrobe. They are all the same, but they're also very different because of the variety of colours that say who I am. Today's colour is racing green because it says action, pow. I am a metrosexual man. Kale smoothie to go? Wow. Give me one up top.
No.
Back to me. I look comfortable and stylish in my modern, although alarmingly short chinos that purposely shows off my mood-defining socks. Oh, and I'm sporting quite superb yet slightly floppy hair with dark frame spectacles that may or may not actually have lenses in them. I am modern media and I'm at your service, for a large fee of course. I appear confident, and when asked a question I will almost certainly answer everything by saying absolutely or for sure. I see what you're saying. That's an interesting perspective. Or just repeat questions back to you, but finish with an extra giving me an air of deep thoughtfulness. I may offer no original insight, probably because I have none. I just take other people's ideas and repackage them for the gullible and needy. I have bought, and yes, I'm still going with this, and possibly even researched many, many books. You will know this, as they will be positioned most carefully behind me for the moment when we do our Zoom call. Books that I will quote from just to let you know that I am well read, even though I've only really just Googled the quotes. Just don't ask me if I've ever owned my own business. Wow. I really have to lay off these people, don't I? I'm actually, at this point, a little bit sorry. Sorry. Cheers. At this point, you may also be thinking, what did these name-calling media marketing people ever do to you, Wise? Oh, well, if you must know, I was touched in my dirty pocket by a man with a shiny watch and a big collared shirt that made his head look like he had no neck. I was 7 years old. I'm just fucking about. What, me? Well, I've lived, learned, watched, built, suffered, triumphed, fucked up, owned, and probably more importantly, survived. And if that's not worth a listen, then I don't know what is. Does it mean I'm right? As mentioned many times, maybe, sometimes. Often, for some people, yes, for others, not so much. But I'm not wrong. As I always say, you should listen to everybody. Just be careful who you believe. And just because one person shouts the loudest, it doesn't mean to say they know the most. More often than not, it should be the other way around. Ask yourself, why do some people need to be heard just so loudly? If their words are honest and true, then it will get through to you. I would say over the years, I've been either solely responsible or part of the process of naming and creating several businesses. Some with what I consider names that had legs and are still operating today. And some with names that, well, were just fucking awful. But we'll get into all that in a while. Some names that when you look back, you say to yourself, holy shitballs, was I drinking that much on that day? I also believe it's important to hear about the failures as well as the successes, don't you think? As my dear old gran used to say, if you can't make a mistake, you can't make anything. Oh, hang on a minute. Let me get a pen. Note to self. Idea for a future episode or Netflix TV show, because they clearly will air anything these days. I think I'll call it Guru Gran. Pair up some so-called gurus with sweet little old grannies. Then invite students, clients, people searching for an answer, or a room full of clapping seals. Whoever wants to listen, really. Premise of the episode being, the gurus still teach or sell to the crowd. They can continue to fertilize the room with their own special brand of bullshit. However, the grannies that they are paired with have a buzzer on their wheelchair, a bit like Hector in Breaking Bad. And they can interrupt at any time with pockets of real wisdom, perspective, or the brutal honesty that only an old person who doesn't give a fuck can offer. Things no person in their 20s will ever be able to serve up. Might work, so look out for that in the future. It would also be pretty cheap to produce. All you would need is a pot of tea, a nice bit of cake, a few biscuits that are dunkable and a spoon on the side for when it goes wrong, and then just make sure that you are near a toilet. So starting with venue names, if you are ever thinking of naming a business, firstly, pick something simple and don't try and be too clever. I tried that once. If people don't understand or can't pronounce a name, then you are straight away alienating yourself from that group of people. If they can't say it, then they ain't buying it, whatever it is. People or customers often don't like to look or feel stupid. What a shock, yeah? Just to go sideways for a second to make my point, the Brazilian spirit that goes into making the cocktail called a caipirinha. Do you know it? The answer is most of you don't, and why should you? Can you pronounce caipirinha properly? If not, which is often the case, then you may not order it. Keep it simple for customers. Your job as a business is to make the customer's life easier, not catch them out and show how clever you are. For any of the picky fuckers listening, I'm not suggesting Brazilian people are trying to catch us out with that name. I know that example is a language thing. Point being, customers don't like looking stupid. As stated, if they can't say it, they may not order it. Your job is to help. I've got this friend, and this is why this drink is relevant to my point. And he just loves it when people order this drink, because he also knows that 9 out of 10 people will pronounce it incorrectly, which then gives him the opportunity to put the customer right, and very rarely in a good way. Why? They ain't fucking Brazilian, and it's your job, not theirs. Even if the customer is wrong, never correct them, or if you have to, do it in a subtle way. It's called showing some class. That's what a rock star would do. A proper one, that is. If the customer orders, let's say, a caipirinha, don't make the drink, then present it smugly saying, "Here is your caipirinha," smug twat. Do that and you are one step away from saying Barcelona instead of Barca fucking Lona. Do any of you out there do this? Do you know anybody that does? I bet you do, because I see it a lot. So you must. Make them stop today. Please. Nobody wins, even if they think they do. The customer is king. Until they're not, of course. So if you can, certainly with your own business, go for something easy to say and easy to remember. Maybe if and when you become more established, you can go for something a little bit more obscure. Also, if the name isn't short or easy to remember, certainly attempt to have a logo that is easy to replicate. Don't forget, you might want the name or logo on merchandise to promote your brand. The more words, the more complex, the more it will potentially cost you to replicate. A perfect example for me, certainly in hospitality, is the name Cheers. You already know this. It's no coincidence that it's my favourite TV show. One word, Cheers. Easy to remember, easy to replicate, and it doesn't take a genius to figure out what kind of venue it is. Also, pretty much any time any of us go out drinking, we will say this word. Simple and genius. On the other hand, a good example of arsing this up is something I did 15, 20 years ago. I, with my business partner, opened a cafe in Soho, London. Without going into too much of the backstory and the reasons why it wasn't a total winner, when I say not a winner, I mean shithouse. The business died so badly, we had to bury it twice. Why don't we just say the name didn't really help our cause? The name of the business? Are you ready for this? It's pretty fucking awful. Actually, saying that, is it awful? Why don't you be the judge? We called it, I can't even say it, it's so bad. It brings back such bad memories. We called it Ollie Olsen's Snack Food und Coffee. Wow. Snack food, spelt with a SCH at the beginning of the word to make it sound more sort of Dutch or European. And the coffee with a K. Again, just to give it a European feel. Fucking brilliant, right? I mean, it wasn't totally stupid. We did have Northern European street food, whatever the hell that means. And we did have stroopwafel. Now, I thought people would come in and order it just to say stroopwafel. Who wouldn't have fun saying that? Come on, say it with me.
Stroopwafel.
See, that was fun, right? Am I right?
You're not wrong. Stroopwafel.
I'm fully aware that I may not be saying that word correctly. Reason being,
I'm not Dutch.
I also thought it had some comedic value. Dutch is a bit funny. No offence to any of my Dutch friends or people who enjoy the occasional Dutch oven. Remember Austin Powers and Goldmember? You know, smoking a pancake, he has tight pants. Nobody? Nothing? Fuck. Anyway, I thought it was funny, just like I think I'm funny at the moment. I may be alone, but hey, fuck it. As it happens at the time, nobody else shared my feelings. What the fuckity fucking Jesus on thin ice were we thinking? I'll say it again. Was I drinking that much? Well, to be honest, yes is the short answer to that. And I'm not kidding either. In my very weak defence, I was a bit stressed at the time. My ex-wife was the manager of the cafe, which, as you can imagine, brought its own unique set of issues. My business partner was, shall we say, not totally present, and there was a couple of dodgy working girls that lived in the apartment upstairs, which resulted in the cafe being broken into and smashed up good and proper 3 times in 5 months. I don't think we were covered for fire theft and hookers. The cafe opened at 7 a.m, closed around 4, then I would go over to the bar that we owned for the evening. Oh man, I think all of that would make Jesus park the red and get on the tequilas. Am I right?
Amen, brother.
I also remember at the time there was a cafe chain around the corner brilliantly named Eat. Now at the time I slagged this chain off saying, that's ridiculous. Why do they call it Eat? They serve drinks as well. That was my amazing logic. Like the customers gave a shit. Eat was a good name with, as it happens, a very simple product. In later years I realised how brilliantly simple it was and how overly elaborate our name was. Hey, where are you going for lunch today? Oh, I'm going to Eat. The end. Or, where are you going for lunch today? Oh, I'm going to Ollie Cop Jolly Schnack. What's it called again? Fuck it, let's go to Eat. Exactly. We had way too many products and didn't know what we were. Or, more to the point, the customers didn't know what we were. Case in point, right opposite our cafe, which was on Wardour Street, right bang in the middle of Soho, was a place called Just for Laughs, spelt like the food falafels. As a play on word, just for laughs, as in ha ha ha. Guess what they sold? That's right, fucking falafels. That probably would have been quite a good name for the store.
Did they have a big queue outside their venue, Wise?
No, they had 2 queues. They had to open a second door as they were that busy.
Wise, did Ollie Olsen's Snack Food und Coffee have a queue outside?
No, it didn't. I'm not even convinced we needed 1 door. I think a cat flap would have done the trick. Again, later I realised that especially at lunchtime, people don't want to think. Who has time to think in a lunch hour? Lunchtime food is meant to be simple and quick, in and out. That's it. I mean, it goes without saying that you can't just survive on a good name. You still need a product. But having a good name is a good place to start. It might just be enough to get people interested and through your door. Then you can dazzle with your product and sparkly service. The point here is, don't overcomplicate things. Certainly not at the start. I know there is a danger to overcomplicate as you want to cover all the bases. Trust me, you can't. Simple is the way forward. I mean, these days, a lot of businesses don't care about a name and employ a marketing company to promote and suck the soul out of a venue. I mean, I'm pretty sure that might upset a few people, and to be fair, you might be right to be upset. Maybe it's an age thing, on my part that is. Movies, music and venues, I feel that things just don't have the soul and personality that they once did. I might be wrong. I'm not wrong. Also on that point, not all of us have the money to employ somebody to create a name when starting out. To be honest, even if I had the money at the start, I would not want to rely on anybody else to come up with a name for my business. For me, if you have to rely or pay somebody else to come up with a name for your business, then you shouldn't be in business. Unless you have pots of cash and no time, then of course, go for it. However, that's not most of us, is it? Wow, I really am a grumpy git sometimes. Oh well, can't see it getting any better any day soon. I have to say, one of my favourite ones over the last few years was when Star City Casino in Sydney, allegedly, spent shitloads of money, I heard $1 million, renaming themselves to The Star. Somebody agreed to do that. Star City to The Star. Wonder what colour socks and jumper they had on that day they did that. I would have done that for $50, a few tequilas and a handshake, sorry. It's not me, it's the alcohol again. Cheers. And that's another thing. If you want to be creative, grow up and have a drink. The amount of ideas and creative juices that will flow over a glass of something jolly will be plentiful. Something also to be aware of is that after a few drinks, if you occasionally do go down that road, you will more than likely also come up with some horrible names, some absolute stinkers. Your job is when the morning comes around to try and remember which was which. That is quite important. Hang on, note to self again, never act on an idea when you still have alcohol in your system. That is a very, very, very bad idea. I'm also not condoning getting drunk. I shudder at the mere thought. How very dare I? I am just merely suggesting that maybe just a tickle of light refreshment might just enhance the creativity. Drink responsibly. Say no to drugs. Stay in school. Don't forget to tip your waitress. And hey, when was the last time you called your mum? It's been a while, hasn't it? Wow, somebody's having too much fun today. So I've come up with a few shockers in my time. Names, that is. I've also got a few right. Our Scandinavian bar in London called Nordic, for one. Simple, and you pretty much know what part of the world you are dealing with. It worked beautifully for 11 years, and as it happens, is still trading under the same name today. That's 20 plus years. So I guess it must have worked on some level. To be honest, and just to touch myself up a little bit more, they are still using the cocktail names that I came up with 20 years ago. They've changed many of the ingredients, but kept the names, which kind of proves my point, doesn't it? Also, and just to flatter myself even more, and if I could take a rib out at this point, I would, I created a shooter wheel, which they still have behind the bar. Now that tells me I was doing something right, and that name calling yet again works. Me, aren't I just fucking super? Actually, when I saw the shooter wheel and the cocktail list with my names on it, I wasn't sure if I was flattered or annoyed. Just on that subject of cocktails and shots for a second. I know shots are a little bit frowned upon these days, but when I had the place in London, I created a shot list of 100 drinks, all with a funny tagline designed to shock and amuse. To be fair, most of which you wouldn't be able to get away with these days. Just as a side note and a tip for anybody that cares, I created this 100 shot list when the bar was quiet. I didn't go home and I didn't go out and have a few drinks. I worked at tomorrow. I sat at the end of the bar and I created. The reason was so I could see what was going on in the venue. If there was a problem, I was on hand, and if it became busy, I could jump right back in. Do you remember when we talked about working smart in the episode called Reviewing Me, Reviewing You? Well, that's it right there. You are also saving money on staff. You send one home early and you stay and work. Time for a wise newsflash. Talking about probably not being able to produce a shot list like that these days. You know what? I think it's changing. I believe that people are getting so bored with being the offended police. I also believe that we will go full circle and start not giving a fuck. It's coming. I'm telling you, I truly believe that the people that seem to be offended 24 hours a day are starting to get bored with being offended. I mean, it must be exhausting when they realize just how much of us don't give a fuck and that we are just getting on with it. I think they'll stop. They will realize that they are wasting their lives and just living it through other people's actions. That was the end of the wise newsflash. Anyway, fuck it. I can hope, can't I? The naughty shots and cocktails? It was just a bit of fun at the time. You remember fun. Let me explain. Fun was this thing you had, sometimes at other people's expense, sometimes not, but nobody seemed to get that offended. And if they did get offended and said, "I'm offended," the other person would then probably just say, "Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. Do you fancy a pint?" Yeah, go on then, just a quick one. Did you see the game last night? Or perhaps if it was a lady, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend. Can I buy you a glass of wine? Would you perhaps like some consensual sexual interaction?" "Ooh, that would be lovely. But I might not call you in the morning." "Oh, that's okay." The end. The good old days. Fuck yeah, no. Apologies if I offended anybody in the whole world, but it's just a joke. But that time existed. It's true. Simple stuff right there. There were no mobile phones. You were not bringing a camera out with you for a drink. Certainly not straight after work anyway. I guess if you were upset, you could have gone home and written a letter of complaint. Mr. Shakespeare. I'm going off in one again, aren't I? So, a good drink name can sell itself. The shooter list that I made was so much fun that unfortunately people used to steal it. But the bar became known for shots and especially for fun, which made the venue very, very busy. The list made people smile, it made them laugh, and it made lots of money. What else do you want? Were the shots any good? How the hell should I know? Myself, one of my partners, and the majority of staff were fairly drunk. We could have given the customer, I don't know, anything. Who cares? Nobody cared was the answer. The drinks were good, they were fun, we just couldn't remember what was in them. If a name resonates with people, then you pretty much have them. That's another rule for you. Don't do what you want. Do what you think the customer wants. What you think will strike a chord with them. What you want should pretty much always be the last thing, even if you are the boss, especially if you are the boss. You should always come second. I think we all know there was a joke there, so no need to celebrate it. Just to finish on the shots, do you want a couple of names from that 100 shot list from all those years ago?
Yes, please, Wise. That would be lovely.
First of all, I would like to offer a big shout out to my friend Steve from Copy Express in London for still having this list on file from 20 years ago. Well played, sir. Okay, now don't blame me if you get a little bit upset. As I said, this was done in jest and many moons ago. The funny thing is, unlike today, the motivation for creating the list was, as stated, to make people smile and have a laugh, never to offend or gain likes. There was no social media to post to. It was purely for the customers that came through the door. I don't know, I guess it's a bit like going to a comedy show. You really shouldn't get offended by Louis C.K., Burr or Gervais if you go to the show. You know what you are getting when you walk through the door. If you are not a fan, you are purely going there because you want to be offended. I think that's right. Okay, so there's a name and a little tagline, and these were all shots. Let's start with a simple one. The Maradona. He performs on grass. See what I did there? Anything? How about the Sexy Moses? It's red, wet, and he parted it. Borderline? What about the Mr. Floppy? It's like pushing a marshmallow through a keyhole. Are we okay with that one? How about the Gay Magician? He disappeared with a puff of smoke. That was very innocent at the time. How about something for the ladies? The PMT Fairy. She's from the Christmas period. Fucking hellfire. I'm getting shot for that one. It's a joke. This is a nice innocent one. Captain's Log. It floats in space. See, that's a nice sweet one. And last but not least, the Kennedy. It will take your head off. It just meant the drink was strong. Oh, and I would just like a special mention to my favourite shot, which was called First Base. And the tagline was, it's like stroking a dog through a letterbox. Meaning, as I feel I should explain, when you are with a member of the opposite sex, or not, and you are consensually putting your hand down their pants to touch something unmentionable, it's like stroking a dog through a letterbox. Dear me. This is about names. See, now you may think that's shocking. At the time, it was a bit of fun, and people bought it because of the name. That was it. Nothing else. They just thought it was funny. You know what? Going back to that last shot, I don't know why people get so prissy about something that probably most people have done. You can do it, but it seems that you can't say it. Yeah, that's totally fucking logical, isn't it? Anyway, Wise Oldman and the Let's Be Honest podcast. Is it a good name? I really don't know. I guess only time will tell. For me, names are like a good joke or a good piece of music. If a joke is still funny, no matter how many times you tell it, or a song is good, no matter how many times you hear it, well, then you're probably onto something. Also, if you have a backstory to how you came up with a name, that's always good for your customers. Customers love hearing a story. It connects them and makes them feel part of what you are doing, and they are almost sort of going on the journey with you. Everybody loves a story. How you came up with a name, how and why you proposed to your wife while bungee jumping over a crocodile pit, why your dog is named Dick, and why the police eventually dropped those charges. A name and a backstory is also a great icebreaker for you as the boss to perhaps engage with new customers. Here's something else that I also think is important. Make sure your staff know the reasons also. There is nothing worse than a customer saying to a staff member, "Hey, why is your bar called The Bear?" and the staff saying, I have no clue. Or they'll say, I'll find out, and then they don't come back. It just looks like they don't care. I mean, they might not care, but that's not the point, is it? To be honest, I've known people create a name and make up a backstory. The first time I heard somebody do this, I thought, that's terrible and really dishonest. Now I'm not so sure. Who cares? It's just a story, a bit of fiction. As long as you don't upset or steal from anybody, then there's no harm. Not really. Fiction works. Just take the best-selling book of all time. What? I was talking about Lord of the Rings. What did you think I meant? Shame on you. Just as a question, why do you think the devil never ever wrote a book? I'm just saying, because I think it would be a cracking read. Some people just don't like competition, I guess. All you are doing is creating an experience for the customer. There is a pub that I know in the city, no names, that had a sign above the door and it said established in 1855. So I said to the manager one day, really? 1855? Can that be true? He said, no, we just picked that date just to give it a bit of an old pub feel. To be honest, I wasn't sure what to say, so I just said, yeah, fair enough, makes sense. A good backstory also works when you get a write-up in a magazine or online. Again, the reader will feel that they know you or certainly know what you were attempting to achieve. A good name with, hopefully an honest backstory will give the venue personality and it will humanize you. What always used to make me laugh was those old hairdresser names, Uppercuts, Hair to Please You, and A Cut Above. Terrible names. Just shocking, which I guess is a good name for an electrician. Just shocking. So generally, not a lot of thought, and one would imagine no story connected to those names. The same goes for bars. I remember in London there was a place once called Traffic. Traffic with a K. Pretty cool, right? Because London has a lot of traffic. Just brilliant. Sorry. The great Gordon Gekko famously once said, money never sleeps. Well, for me, ideas never sleep either. Always be alive to what's going on around you, even in the most unlikely places, or when you are doing the most mundane of tasks. As lots of books state these days, be present. Sure, you may get a spark of inspiration from your phone, as I always have from TV. However, there is a time and a place for everything. Your thought is more likely to be an original one if it's just you and your most powerful tool. No, not that. Your imagination. Am I romanticizing it a little? Yes, I am. And I fucking love it. I think over the years, I've single-handedly kept many cafes in Sydney and London in business, just sitting, watching, doodling, creating, drinking. And I wonder why I have the shaky coffee shits. I've still got my doodling box from over 25 years ago, just full of ideas. And probably full of shit as well. But as I always say, there is a fine line between awesome and shit. Things that may have been crap 10 years ago, you look at them now and you go, you know what, there's something in that. Sit, drink, observe, ponder, and talk. If you stop talking to people and communicating, that one little gem of a name or an idea will just be a whisper in the wind. Gone. Fuck me, that was almost poetic. Just to finish this episode, I think the first time I can really remember that you could call a drink or a venue really anything you wanted, and it didn't have to be boring or normal, was when I was in Helsinki and I came across this bar called We've Got Beef. The funny thing is, I don't think they actually sold food. To me, that just made it all the more brilliant. I mean, they may have sold food, but you see, I was taken to Finland on a free trip by a Finnish beer company. Shout out to Lapinkulta. I was there for 5 days, so my eyesight and motor skills were not really functioning that well. I think I was in Helsinki. It was snowing, and I couldn't really understand anybody anymore. Might have been Scotland now I think about it. Either way, the name stuck with me, and that was over 20 plus years ago. That has to mean something, wouldn't you say? To finally finish, honest, when it comes to name calling, what are we taking away from this? Well, firstly, have a drink. Kidding. Always walk around with your eyes open. Observe, create, and use that wonderful imagination of yours. That's something that you have that nobody else has. Be original. Don't just commentate from the sidelines or repackage what other people have done. The world is full of that these days. If you think you are great, if you think you are something, then do something about it. Good Lord, I think I went off in one again, didn't I? Still, hey, as I said I think it was in episode 1, these episodes will last as long as they last. If I've got something to say, I'll say it. Now, I would love to hear from you. Instagram, LBH Wise Oldman. Facebook, Let's Be Honest with Wise Oldman. Or email, chat@wiseoldman.club. Wise, as always, with a Z. Till next time, say hi to somebody new today. Do something nice for a colleague. And go that extra mile with a customer. I think those are wise words. Wouldn't you agree? I'm off to the park to take my dog Richard for a walk. Bye-bye.